So here's a good example. Say you are that kid that maybe is 16, struggling, maybe with their basketball player. Something is bringing them down, right? You told us exactly the kind of the process that they're going to go through when they open up the app. In that case, how quickly from when they tell you, that with the different emojis or whatever it is, that they're feeling X, Y, and Z, what is like an example of like a meditation, of the meditation content, or maybe of another one of those resources that they're going to be prompted? Is it going to be like an article? Is it going to be I don't know, a podcast? Is it going to, like, what are some of the best solutions that you found that the Zone app is going to recommend for someone who's out there right now who's like, okay, maybe one day I want to download this app and use this as my primary tool to overcome, my
right. And everybody's different, right? Some people want audio, some people want video,
right,
and some people want infographics, right? And when we say infographic is, what is anxiety, right? Let's say after 3 days they've been prompted and said that they feel like this. Now we know, okay, this is a red flag, right? Because our therapist and our wellness committee told us that they're heading down a spiral which can lead to overwhelm or burnout or suicide thoughts. So now we get in front of that and we're like, hey, this is what being like this feels 3 days, and it's literally infographic after infographic, and now they'll go through and they'll be educated on what may happen, right? Gotcha. And they give them coping mechanisms, and it's like, okay, think about this. If you're not ready to meditate, these are different things you can do in your own time, right? And now they're getting educated. So we look at it a 3-step process when you think about content. It's not just audio, it's not just video, it's not just infographics, not just articles. It spans, right? But awareness, education, application, that's our process within the platform. How do we make you more aware of what you're actually going through? And now how do we educate you on what it is you're going through? Now when you're educated, which these things can take a long time, how do we make sure that you're applying these things to help you over time? And we have those steps within the app, and we're gonna guide you.
How do you keep someone, especially if it's not like, maybe for the most part, like one-on-one direct, like a therapy session where, the benefits, and I love therapy, but definitely one of the benefits of therapy is, whether it's in person or unfortunately during COVID over Zoom, you can't like go on your phone, you can't like dilly-dally, you can't, they hold you accountable. When you're on an app, there's no one there to say, you could be watching TV on the app at the same time. Mm-hmm. And maybe over time, especially knowing my generation, they just kind of get bored of things. They're lazy. They don't want to do it. Maybe they do it once or twice a week, but instead of 5 or 6 or 7 times a week. How do you guys keep the, that retention rate that you're talking about? And not just the retention rate, but also like the consistency of having someone not check in once or twice a month, but every single day, hopefully.
Right. Something that we're very much thinking about and doing it very smart, because a lot of people have articles about why these apps don't work, and we paid attention to that, right? And when you think about AI, how do we make it not intrusive, but how do we make it fit into the lifestyle of the person? Mm-hmm. Right? When would you like to meditate? If we call our bot a zone trainer, the zone trainer, your zone trainer, your own wellness coach, right? When would you like to do it, right? Oh, we're looking at trends. So we're like in constant communications where you said that you want to commit to this habit over this month, but you only did it 2 times. Well, this is going to lead to this, right? So now we're kind of not being invasive, but we're letting you guide that kind of story. So we know that that's going to drive more interactive. Now, another thing we're thinking about is community. How do we make wellness something that you can have an accountability person with you, right? A friend, a teammate, and hey, I just did my wellness goal of the day, and you can ping them and be like, hey, make sure you get yours done. And now it draws some type of accountability push, right? So those are the 2 fronts that we're really thinking about to drive that, but that's a tricky portion of it.
Kind of going on that idea, which actually sounds like a great idea in terms of like, I just did my accountability goal of the day, right? And then you send it to your friend. There's still, obviously everyone wants to talk about the stigma of mental health, and we can talk about that after. But there's also, I think, another stigma of like, after you're past the initial stigma of mental health, of like, there's probably a stigma, or I'm thinking about it more in my perspective, is I don't know if we're at a point yet in history where even if you and I can talk about, maybe not you, but like me and a friend can talk about how important mental health is, I don't think enough people are yet at the point where they'd be willing to, you know, send to their friend like, hey, did you do your mental health accountability goal? You know what I mean? How do you think maybe as a society, and also you as someone who's kind of trying to target some of those people, to make it more normal to check in on your friend and say, hey, like, I just did my accountability goal today. Like, have you done yours?
Right. I think, and that's why talking to the team about everything that we talk about before it goes in app is everything has to be out of app, right? And how we educating our consumer, how we educating our schools on what it is, because everybody has this notion of expecting like it's more people in the population have no idea how important it is versus not until it hits them or it hits a friend, right? So I think when we're still reactive, we will still be reactive for the next 2 to 5 years, I believe, right? But that doesn't mean that solutions don't need to be in the forefront, because you don't know when it hits, who it hits, and why it hits. Conversations, right? Things like Brandon Marshall's doing with I Am Athlete. Things, Dak Prescott, Naomi recently, right? It gets real because it's not fake. It's not like the older generation loves to say, and this is one of the biggest problems. I have these conversations daily. The old generation, when I talk about old generation, boomers, my parents and whatnot, get through it because they just got through and figured out. It wasn't real for them, right? But they didn't live in today's time where things are way much faster, information are sourcing through. There's so much things trying to keep up. The Gen Z is way different than the boomers. So for you now to push the kids that you basically raised and say, hey, get through it, deal with it, or it's not real, or you're soft, or you're punk, or you're just complaining. I had somebody say, hey, Naomi was complaining. I was like, all right, has Naomi ever caused a problem? No. Is Naomi probably the best player, you know, let's put Serena aside, she's a legend, the best up-and-coming player? Yes, she's going to be the face of UTA tennis, right?
Yep.
Do you think that she would want to say, hey, in 2018, if anybody watched the interview, she basically said, hey, I'm going through X and X and X.
Yeah.
And she still did the interview, but then she responded, right? So I'm not even berating the older generation. I'm not. I have these conversations and I let them think about it. So I'm like, okay, so her saying all of this, and then her saying, does she deserve special privileges? No. But what went wrong was the tennis organization should have just reached out to their best player, because Adam Silver would have reached out to LeBron if LeBron said something, right?
Yeah.
What's going on? How can we accommodate this and make it work? No, they didn't. They put out a statement, and guess what? She backed out because she's actually going through something. She backed out in the next tournament, you know? So now, who wins?
Yeah, and just for people out there listening that aren't familiar with that Naomi Osaka situation, it was basically that she was, as I was saying, going through, you know, whatever she was going through mentally, and then didn't want to do press at the French Open, and then got fined for it, and then just said, altogether, I'm just going to pull out of it. But I think also, what's also interesting about that situation, and unfortunately, because I think it's the world we live in, I imagine with whatever she's going through right now, she probably wants to just, you know, kind of, and I mean, she's also unbelievably famous, but she'd also love to just kind of be out of the public eye. But I think, unfortunately, because of that, she will now get more attention at the future events, which is unfortunate.
I think she's in an interesting spot.
Yeah.
She could impact sports for a long time, because now you're going to have to really take in consideration the mental health of these upcoming athletes, you know, and it's the first one. Like LeBron did a partnership with Calm, you know, but it was more about mental performance, and people don't even know this. Mental wellness, mental health, mental performance, they aren't all the same thing, right? So I think that what she did for herself is powerful. It's very powerful, and it's gonna create that confidence. It's gonna create that ability for, you know, because everybody had to say Serena was going through tougher, and she did interviews. True. So do you want to continue doing the same thing over and over and over and over? No, we don't want Naomi to, you know, we want her to get better. We don't, you know, we know what people did to Serena and how they would treat her in interviews, right? We don't want that to continuously happen. So, and I get that the media has to do their job. I'm not berating them, but there's a way to do your job.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, Follow me on Instagram at felix.levine. And if you have something to say, please leave a comment.